Hello everyone and welcome to Beard Reads Books. And today's book review, it's going to be on The Day of the Triffids by John Wyndham. As you can see here, I've got a nice big book, volume of stories. There's 6 of his novels in all here. So the other 5 I'm going to be reading at some point in the future. But like I said, today's book review is on the first novel in this book, The Day of the Triffids. Now, I've never actually read the book before, Day of the Triffids, so sort of the last couple of weeks reading it, this is the first time I've ever read it. So, I mean, I've known the general gist of what it's about. I mean, I've seen the 1960s film that was sort of based on the story. Wasn't overly impressed with that. I might give that one a rewatch because it's been a good 15-20 years since I last saw it, so might give that film a rewatch or see if it's any better on a second viewing. But anyway, yes, the book itself, thoroughly enjoyable book, I thought. Really enjoyed it. It's all about these Triffids. They're the main sort of bad guys, I suppose you could call them. They're a kind of a plant that's got a certain amount of intelligence. Nobody knows exactly how they came into existence. There's a sort of, in the novel, some of the people in it have got theories that their sort of origins were started in Russia, but nobody knows for definite how they came about. But they initially sort of came to be all around the globe because they were cultivated because they provided a good vegetable oil. I think it was a vegetable oil that they were cultivated for. So that's how they came sort of to be around the world. At the start of the book, we're introduced to Bill Mason. He's the protagonist. He starts off in hospital because he worked with the Triffids. He was a biochemist, and he worked on a Triffid farm, sort of taking care of the Triffids, and had a bit of an incident with one of the Triffids that sort of blinded him a bit temporarily, so he had to go into hospital to be taken care of. And while he's in hospital, we're like all bandaged up and all the rest, there's a meteor shower that's he can't see it, so loads of people that can see it, they're describing it to him how wonderful it is, how brilliant it is to watch this meteor shower, sort of lighting up the sky and all the rest. The only downside is that the meteor shower causes like a vast amount of the global population to be blinded, like permanently blinded. Obviously Bill Mason, because he was in hospital, sort of all bandaged up, he wasn't affected by the meteor shower. So on the day that he's able to come out of hospital, he's still got his sight. He's one of the few humans left with his sight, and it is basically his account of sort of the early stages of adapting to this new world where a lot of humans are blind, and the Triffids have effectively, could you say, taken control? Well, they're a pest, a menace, and they're kind of predators preying on humans, and it's kind of humanity's in the balance a bit, so to say, trying to sort of fight back against the Triffids. And yeah, it's all about how humans are trying to sort of adapt to this new situation. And as we follow Bill Mason, and he meets up with a lady, was it Jolene? I've only just read the book and I can't quite remember her name now, but meets up with her, and he's just sort of following their story. And yeah, it's quite interesting. One thing I loved about following their story was there's sort of places that they go to that I know very well. Because at one point in the story, they go to Bedminster in Dorset, and I lived in Bedminster for quite a few years, so it was really interesting to see Bedminster appear in such a classic story. Because I'm reading that bit where sort of Bill Mason sort of goes down to Bedminster with a group of people, I could sort of picture the area where they are, so that made it quite nice, very interesting for me. Yeah, and it is quite interesting to sort of see how different groups of people sort of try and implement ideas of how to cope with the new situation. Sort of like, obviously different groups of people have got different ideas of how they're going to run their little groups. Like obviously where the various people like congregated together, so they've got very like different groups have got different ideas of how they're going to run their little group. So trying out different ideas and all the rest. So it's like, yeah, interesting to see how they were exploring these different ideas were being explored on how to run sort of the communities. And I mean, there were quite a few people that were holding out hope for the Americans to come in and help them out. And of course, I mean, Day of the Triffids, it was written in 51, so it was only sort of 5-6 years after the Second World War had finished. So obviously, Second World War, like for like the first few years of it, Britain was pretty much on its own, fighting against the sort of the Nazi regime, the Third Reich. Got an absolute pasting. It was on its knees, sort of on the verge of being beaten, pretty much. And then it was sort of obviously America joined the war in World War Two, in 1941. So a lot of people would have, I suppose, a lot of British people sort of would have had the view of like America sort of came in and helped them out and sort of helped them save the day. So obviously, sort of fast forward 6 years to when the Day of the Triffids is set, and you get quite a few people in the story. They're like, "Oh, the Americans are going to come and help. They'll help us out." So I suppose it's that kind of mentality. Well, they came and helped us out in the Second World War when we're on our knees. We're on our knees again. They're going to come and help us out again. And like Bill Mason, he was a bit more practical, pragmatic, and he's like, well, America's probably going through the exact same situation as us. Can't really necessarily rely on the Americans to step in and help us out on this occasion. So yeah, and it was kind of strange and saddening. It's a bit sad in a way to sort of see how various characters' attitudes were to the blind people. I mean, Bill Mason, he was very much wanting to help blind people as much as he could, but a part of him was sort of the pragmatic part of his mind, sort of, let's say, pragmatic, practical side. That might sound a bit harsh saying this, but there was a part of his mind was like thinking, well, there's only so much help we can give the blind. We can't help all of them. But a lot of the characters in the story, they're very brutal, blunt, and with their attitude towards the blind, their attitude was the blind, we can't help them. You know, we got to sort of concentrate on helping out those of us that are sighted. If we concentrate too much on helping the blind, using resources to help the blind, you know, the Triffids are going to beat us. You know, so we've got to ignore the blind. So it was very sad to sort of see how blind people were being treated in the story. So they were treated as very much as second-class citizens by some of the sighted characters. So yeah, but I mean, very enjoyable story, very thought-provoking. I found as well, very thought-provoking indeed. So I'm definitely going to have to sort of try and get me hands on a copy of the TV show that came out in the 1980s. Might see if I can see that on YouTube or something. See how that compares to the story. I think there was a TV adaptation came out in 2009 as well. So we're gonna have to have a look at that one, see how that compares to this. But no, it's like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's about 170 pages to the story, so it's not too long. So it's like, and I didn't find it hard going at all. It was, yeah, I found it very easy reading, very enjoyable. Highly recommend it. If you haven't read it already, it's definitely one worth reading. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed watching this review. If you liked it, feel free to comment. Well, if you didn't like it, whatever your views, like, comment down below. If you read the book yourself, like I said, I'd be interested to hear what you thought of the story. So I said, yeah, drop me a comment and all the rest. And like I said, I'm now on to reading The Hobbit, so that's going to be my next book review. So that'll come out in the next sort of week or two. So look out for that, guys. And in the meantime, take care and stay safe.